Hey folks, it's Paul from Velo. Today we're going to talk about tools because I got a whole bunch and I'm a mechanic and you should get some too. Here we go. These are the tools I use when I'm working on my bike, and it's not an all-inclusive list. I don't have everything, but I have a whole bunch of stuff I've collected over the years, and let me show you what I mean. So if you want to work on your own bikes, there's a few things you should probably have that are pretty important. And I would think the most important tool, these cable cutters I hear are Pedro's. They cut cables super clean and they cut housing perfectly. You may have to file the end a little bit, but it's the cleanest cut you're going to get. If you try to cut cables with some little snips like this, you're going to be sorely disappointed. These are good for opening packages. Another real important tool, chain tool. Everybody needs a chain tool to shorten chains. Let's see, we got some screwdrivers here. Got varying widths of flat blades. These work good for adjusting derailleurs. Got to keep things clean. If you're ever changing your rotors on your disc brakes, make sure you put some Loctite on those bolts. Don't over torque them. And if you like doing sealant, one of these little tools right here will pop your cores right out. Or if you do slime in your Schrader valves, that'll help you. A couple of bottom bracket tools there. If you're into suspension, got to have a pump. Allen wrenches, of course. The gauge on my floor pump broke, so I got a digital one here. Just fire it right up, works great. Got a new little Torx driver there. Torx is very important, especially if you're running SRAM, GX or above. They're using Torx there on the derailleur cables. Got a bunch of spanners. These are not mission critical, but they do help tremendously if you have some hub troubles, especially on old loose ball bearings. Pedal wrench, 15 millimeter, Shimano bottom bracket, irons, and since I'm not rich, I don't have a Campanolo peanut butter wrench, but I do have the Park Tool CCW 15, which is a 15 millimeter axle nut wrench. 14 millimeter works good. And if you want to step things up, this little bottom bracket tool comes in handy. And if you want to remove your cassettes, this will do it every time. I got a chain whip as well. Those are also critical. A common theme over at the bike shop is pedals and some other bolts and things that have been put on by gorillas, and they're super tight. To get them off, you need a torque enhancer. So you take a little piece of pipe like this and you put it on the Allen wrench or the wrench or whatever you got there, and you use it to increase your leverage. Works almost every single time. Now, if you're working on old stuff, chances are you're going to have something stuck completely, and you're going to need some penetrating catalyst there to break things loose. Some tri-flow to lubricate shifters and things. A couple of chain lubes there. And of course, everybody needs some sealant. If you're running tubeless, you got to have spare sealant. Totally makes sense. If you're going to go on a ride, something goes wrong, especially right before a ride, it's always good to have some sealant so you can pop it in there. Keep a little roll of tape handy. Never know when some bar tape pops off your road bike. One thing that is super cool, so you can see right back here, is if you can swing it, get yourself a bike stand. These pro stands here go a long way. It's super easy to work on your bike when it's up in the air. You can adjust things. You can see the derailleurs right there, ready to adjust. I bought this stand from a shop that was going out of business. Works great. Now, if I was traveling, I wouldn't want to bring my big giant Park toolbox over there that I just got. I'd want to bring something a little smaller. So this is what I got. Went over to the local thrift store, found this little box right here. It was like $2 or $3, and it works great. So if we go to the beach, or if we take a ride, somewhere where we have to transport the bikes, I can throw this in the car with some of the basic tools, Allen wrenches, patch kit, couple spare tubes in there, because you never know when you get to the beach. Something always happens when you get there and you got to fix something, and you don't want disappointment when you get to the beach. I built my first set of wheels 25 years ago, and I did not have a truing stand. So about 15 years ago, I bought this one. It's a Park Tool home mechanic wheel truing stand, TS-7. Works great. It came with a little gauge to help with truing. I took that off and I put on this little dial gauge, which gets things ridiculously straight, and it helps me out. It makes a lot of noise, but it really helps true things up. All right, so that's the tools that I use. I have a whole bunch. As you can see, I've collected this stuff from sales, garage sales, got some at bike shops all up and down California. These things are not necessary to work on bikes. You don't have to have specific bike tools. Other brands work, Craftsman, Husky. You can see I got a few different deals there. And if all you have is one of these, then that's what you have. Go ahead and use it. It's not going to hurt anything as long as you're careful with it. One thing you may notice, I don't have a torque wrench. But for important torquing, I take my bike to the shop where I work and I torque things there. So in the next month or so, maybe for Christmas, I'll buy myself a torque wrench because it's very important, especially when you're working on carbon. So if you have carbon parts, I'm going to tell you now, at the shop we joke around that getting things to the German spec called good and tight works pretty good on steel or aluminum parts. But if you're using carbon, you don't want to do it like Brian says, which is tighten it up until you hear the crack and then back it off half a turn, because that is just a joke and we laugh about it. So don't do that. Be nice to your carbon. So thanks for watching. I'll check you guys out next week, and hit that subscribe button right here, and I'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.